So I know you, as you mentioned, the interview process, and you mentioned a little bit before how it was kind of a disaster starting off. Could you dig in a little bit about how it's evolved over time and what you've learned, some mistakes you've made? Quick question.
On the recruiting, I didn't hear anyone talk about college campus recruiting, either in the, I don't mean outsourcing overseas, but recruiting either here in the U.S. or like from Eastern Europe or somewhere where you get a lot less cost of labor in this tech-constrained labor market we're in today.
Sure, I don't, certainly from our side of it, we've been such a small group. As I grow the department out, you know, when I'm a much larger company, I can definitely see us spending more time on kind of the campus type recruitment, but that's not something that we've done.
Yeah, you should look at that. Our second engineer was right out of school at a CU, and he's been with us now for 4 years. He's been great. We have 2 current engineers who are in school. One's working 30 hours a week. One took this semester off to work full time and then is going to go back and do it. And so we've worked with CU to find engineers. It's worked out well. The job fairs don't work at all. You know, you have to find someone who's at CU or is going in the computer science department, ask them who the good people are if they know anyone, and just go directly to the students, because we haven't had luck with people actually going to the job fairs.
I 100% agree with what Mike said. We have this awesome, we had the best intern that's ever existed. His name is Fletcher Richmond, and he was an intern with us for 2 years and is now a full-time employee with us because he just graduated. And he basically unlocked CU for us. As you know, he's like, hey, you want to meet my buddy? He's this incredible developer, and he just wants to work here for free for the summer. You know, it's like these one after the other stories were great. So we've had a really solid intern program, and we have multiple people on the engineering team are like 22, 23 years old, you know, a year or two out of school. Last summer, we did a program called Students to Startups, and there's a variety of other programs like that are really cool that help connect you to the university. We found it, as cool as those programs are, and you feel like you're really giving back to the community, you have to be careful because there's a lot of work that goes into those programs. So I watched as our CTO and VP of engineering spent a lot of time kind of forming, and that really is stressful when you're trying to ship things very fast and watching that time commitment. But that was our experience.
You were talking about the interview process.
Yeah, the interview process. What have you learned over the time?
Yeah, I'd say there's one thing that sticks out to me that we've gotten way better at is, you know, do a test. You know, no matter what the job is. So we do this for product managers, engineers, marketing folks, customer success, account management, salespeople. Do a test. Give them a project for them to come in and to present. So for the product team, we give every product manager who applies, say, okay, design a Compose iPhone app. We don't currently have one, but design it. It can be really limited in features. You know, I know you don't have all the time, but just design one, come in with the requirements, and present that to the rest of the product team. Engineers have a similar test. They have to build something. Customer success has to, you know, do a presentation. We used to have them pitch Compose to Composters, but now we have them pitch whatever they want. But the test is huge. You get to see how people communicate, how much effort they put in. You know, everything gets revealed in the test. And we didn't do it before, and we weren't as good at hiring, but that's made a huge difference. No, some people do the test on the fly, especially in the engineers, like sit down, how would you solve this problem kind of thing. In this case, it's more, they've been in for an interview, you've gone through some of the soft stuff, your resume looks good, blah, blah, blah. It's, okay, I want you to come in and meet the rest of the team, do it in a week, you know, give or take 4 days. And when you do that, here's what I'd like you to present. Vague description, iPhone app, you know, these requirements. You know, so it's take home. They compare whatever they want. The people who we hired spent a lot of time on it and nailed it. And, you know, there are things we actually want to use. And, you know, like the people we hired, people go into that test and it's a presentation around a, you know, conference table. people leave and they go, wow, that guy did better than I would have done. You know, those are the responses you want. And we've been doing it for a while that everyone knows that someone we've hired has done one of those tests, and you know, it's sort of a rite of passage to get in the door. But you know, it shows you how eager people are. If people don't want to put the time in, then you don't want to hire them anyway.
We definitely do the same thing. From an engineering standpoint, we've got a home assignment that we give people before they come in. So first step coming in, we get the resumes. If the resume looks good, we'll send out the invite to do the culture index that I told you about earlier. Based on the culture index, the next step for me then would be, all right, you're a developer. Here's a developer assignment that we have for you. And generally, it's touching on the key components of our software, so the tech stack itself. So maybe if I'm looking for a Java guy, they might have to understand Hibernate and understand how Java works with Hibernate, et cetera. We'll do that. The number one thing from a kind of an evolving standpoint for us is make sure you're consistent in your interview process. We have a very consistent stack of interview questions that we use, and the reason why is I'd find myself, you know, we've got half a dozen people we really like. Halfway through them, I'll ask a different question I haven't asked the other ones, and then everyone's like, damn, we should have asked the other ones on that one, right? And that, unfortunately, is something that you don't know that pothole's there until you've stepped in it so many times that you're like, I'm never going to do that again.
Just to build on something Mike was saying, with the Students to Startups program, because we had so many applicants come through, we didn't do a test, but we had a version of that where we asked them to describe anything. And I kind of giggled at that at first, you know, but it was very effective. And some of the standouts, like one guy described, you know, how to win your bracket of the NCAA tournament. You know, things like that. That one guy described how to play a certain video game, and I was really, you know, just impacted by how that brings out lots of different combination of skills. Standing up, you know, drawing on the whiteboard. Like, are they drawing on paper? Do they look at you? You know, are they telling a story, or are they describing something step by step? You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Let me add one thing about the test, because I was thinking about this. You know, when we were small, we didn't describe the test as a test, let me just say it that way, because you're eager to hire someone, you think you've got a candidate that you really want to hire. The last thing you want to do is like, hey dude, can you put in 20 hours for free and then come in and, you know, talk to the rest of the team? And, you know, you sort of want to hire. And so we would just describe it, I forgot what the word we used, maybe an assignment, but we said something where, you know, we want you to come meet the rest of the team, and we want to have something common to talk about, so you can see how we ask questions and how we interact with the rest of the team, and you can see, you know, how things happen. So there was a reason for them to do it beyond just us evaluating them, because we didn't want to scare them away. And so we still asked them to do a test, but we just framed it as a way for us to continue the interview process.
Gotcha. Does anybody have any questions about that? Question was three best interview questions.
Good question. I like to ask what they have read lately, or what they read, and how they get it. I'll say it's not really that helpful in determining if they're a good candidate or not, but it's really good way to see. You know, a lot of times it's hard to pull out what they're interested in. And so, but I do like to see, you know, what they're reading sort of in their free time, and if they're, you know, some people are like, oh, I go on Twitter and I find all my stuff on Twitter. Some people are like, I use RSS reads. People are like, I'm not on social at all. I get all my stuff at the library. You know, it's just interesting. I enjoy that question a lot, but it's not that helpful.
You just love asking questions that aren't helpful, but you like. That's cool. One of the ones that I'll use is asking, certainly from the technical side, is to ask them to describe one of a project they've had in the last year that they're most proud of, and that they were the happiest in their career working on, and why. And I love to do that because it allows them to kind of shows how they think, and the type of work that they like to work on. So that's one of them.
Yeah, I think the best one is, sorry, Kelly, before I hand it over, is what job do they want after Kapost? That's the best, right? Everyone sort of knows where they're going in the career, and you need to get that out of them. When we were smaller, we loved it when people were like, I want to start a company of my own. I mean, the kid we hired out of CU, that was his thing. He goes, I want to start a company, software company. He's like, he had already started, building a site, but then you could relate how this experience at Kapost would help him get there, and that you can expose some more sort of building company stuff with them. Other people, especially engineers, are into really hard problems, and they want to get maybe a skill set over in this area where they don't have it. But that's the best question, and it comes out right away. And I like people who have an answer for that question. People who don't know where they want to go, they actually could be great employees and really valuable to the team, but it's helpful when you're building someone's, tour of duty to know where they want to go.
So the question I like the most is, so what's going on, or how things going? I say it 100 times a day. People ask me that 100 times a day, so that's how I start every conversation, no matter what, in interviews. How people react to that, how they talk, how at ease they are, it's a very interesting thing. Another question I love is what's on your home screen of your phone? The guys at Product Hunt talk about this all the time, and it's actually a hilarious way to get some perspective and have a good conversation starter. And then lastly, I mentioned this already, but just having someone describe something that they know how to do, that they're good at, or they experienced, is just super powerful.
I will say one thing. I was asking this exact question to the co-founder of Pardot. I don't know if you guys know the company Pardot. It's in Atlanta, marketing automation software. They bootstrapped it, and so they raised no venture and got bought for $100 million. And so they did an interview process. The last people were always the founders, and they cared about very few things. They didn't even ask whether they were going to be good at their job, but they wanted to see if someone was supportive, positive, and collaborative, and they would ask questions to try to figure that out. And if they were not good at any one of those, so if they didn't feel if they were throwing someone under the bus from their last job or something like that, they ding them and immediately got out. And so they wanted to be ranked the best place to work in America, and they made Forbes list best place to work, top 100 companies, everyone that they were there, and they gave great perks. But they're like, if you're not positive, if you bring negativity into an interview process, then you're out. So they would ask questions geared to that. They have a lot of blog posts about that. It's really interesting how they did this whole process.
Gotcha.
David Cummings is the founder's name. He's got a great blog.
What do you think about rushing? When you're rushing the process, what does your timelines look like from first conversation to hire?
Ooh.
How do you what do you do to lay that out, laying those expectations out?
I'll confess, I think both of these guys have better processes than Kapost, because sometimes we meet a guy, we've done this multiple times. We just did it 3 weeks ago, where we'll meet someone. We've done this for both men and women, and we hire them that same day. And sometimes you can just tell this person is great. You don't see people like this that often. These people when they're just so much better than everyone else you've ever seen. You can assess that they're a good person, and man, you got to hire them. You do, and so we do that right away. And we're like, are you interviewing anyone else? They usually say they have, and they're like, here's an offer. And you didn't ask this question, but one thing that's great in the interview process is to ask someone, what it would take for them to accept a job right then. So much better than negotiating, because if they have an idea, and if you give them what they want, it's hard for them to renege and go back, interview somewhere else and get something else because, they've asked for something, you've given it to them, versus you pitch something, they counter, and then you give it to, then it's this whole negotiation process where it can go any direction you want. But if you ask someone what they want and you give it to them, they usually, come aboard. And so we hire some people super fast, and then others we do the whole process. We're hiring, we're looking to hire someone right now. It's been, 4 weeks, and they've met multiple departments. So for super senior people, maybe executive team, you know, we're much more deliberate.
Gotcha.
So sort of a
For us, it was a matter of getting that process down. So that evolution we were talking about on the last series of questions, and once we got the process down, everything went quickly. I give myself 1 week. So generally what happens is I do the phone screens from the technical side of the house prior to anyone coming in. The reason why is in our group interviewing is expensive, right? We're a small company. I cannot have 5 engineers sitting around for weeks trying to interview people. So I will narrow it down. I'll get half a dozen candidates that I think are going to be rock stars in the interview process. I give myself 1 week. We have a very standardized way that we do the interview process, and we don't delay. What I don't believe in, because it's bitten me in the butt before, is kind of what I would call the Vegas model. Well, the next one's going to be better. The next one's going to be better, right? I come through. If I find somebody, that person's a rock star, I guarantee by the time they get home to have their dinner, they've got an offer from us.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. Hire fast, fire fast model. So a lot of times you hear hire fast, or hire slow, fire fast. But I completely agree. It's in a startup environment, things are moving super fast. You need to be decisive. You can't delay and delay and delay over time. For us, one thing we have done for people in different cities, we bring them to Boulder to spend a couple days in Boulder. That's when we're very close. So in that case, start to finish has been a couple of weeks. So we have a good couple meeting or two. We probably already know them from our network. Bring them to Boulder for 2 or 3 days. They leave and they have the offer. It's that type of thing. For a very standardized role where we know exactly what we're looking for and interviewing a big pool of candidates, like an account manager or sales type of role, internal sales, it's like a 2-week thing from start to finish.